Okay, so today we are going to look at the topic from the third module. We're going to look at monitors. In the third module, we had already studied semaphores. So it was a method for effective process synchronization. But the problem with the semaphore is that if we do not use them correctly, that is the order in which they should be involved, is not properly designed by the programmer, then what can happen is something known as a timing error. So what are these errors is it happens only when you have a situation where the execution sequence that take place are in a different order, or some of the sequences do not occur at all. So when some such situations arise, you can call those errors as a timing error. An example is given here. Suppose that a process in the changes order in which we know that all of you must be knowing in a semaphore, we have two special functions that helps in synchronization. That was wait and signal, right? So here also, if the process that interchanges the order in which the wait function or the signal function executes, suppose the order is like this. First, you signal the mutex and then you perform some code, go into the critical section, and then you perform some code and then call upon the wait mutex function. So if this is the order that we have written such that it enters the critical section, then we know that many of the processes will be executing in the critical section such that the mutual exclusion property is not satisfied. We all know that mutual exclusion is a property such that if one process is in the critical section, no other process should be able to allow to enter. Isn't it? That is a basic idea. So, but suppose signaling, we know that signaling means we are incrementing the value and you're somehow entering the critical section. That can be actually done by all of them. And wait is you're decrementing the function value, and that happens at a later point of time. So when something like this happens, several processes may be in the critical section, so which can be a timing error. Another case is, that is, for example, you need to require that the signal and the wait mutex, it executes in another way. Say, for example, you do not even have the signal function call. We do not have this particular function call, and instead it is replaced with the wait. Okay, that is, you have two wait function calls, and that is how you've written how a process should enter the critical section. Then what happens is, if all the processes will be waiting, and what can happen, a deadlock will be occurred. So you can say when the process is replaced with only wait, then deadlocks can occur. And if the order of the wait and signal is interchanged, then you can say that mutual exclusion property will not be satisfied. So this either way does not work. Now, another one they have given over here is a process omits the wait or the signal or both. So and this wait function is not called at all, or the signal function is not called at all, or both of them are not called at all. Then there's no use of synchronization. So there's no method involved in synchronization. So the mutual exclusion is of course violated and a deadlock will occur. So you can either have starvation or you can have deadlock. Both the issues can come. So to deal with such issues of semaphore, another type of method that has been developed is a fundamental high level synchronization construct. We call it in such a way. It's a construct called a monitor type. It's a particular data type, and it's a high level kind of synchronization construct or object, you can say, called monitor. Okay, that is what we're going to look at. So what are monitors? It's a high level abstraction that provides a convenient and effective mechanism for process synchronization. Now, all of you must be knowing what is meant by an ADT. ADT, you must have learned in data structure, that is known as abstract data type. So what is an abstract data type? It's something that, you know, that when you have data and procedures, you have learned in object-oriented concepts and as well as in data structure. When you have data as well as procedures associated with the data, you encapsulate them in a particular way. Say, for example, in object-oriented concept, you can say like a class. So you have some set of data and a set of functions to operate on that data. Okay, we have a set of functions and we have some associated data, and these functions are designed such a way that they can operate on the data, and they are actually independent of any specific implementation. So like the stack function, you have push and pop functions that increments and decrements the top value, top pointer, right? So that is an example of ADT. Similarly, monitor is also an ADT. So monitor is an ADT. Why? Because it includes a set of programmer defined operations like procedures, functions, whatever you can call it, that are provided with mutual exclusion inbuilt itself. So within the monitor, you will be having some special operations which are already provided with mutual exclusion. So that is how they have been designed. So what is the advantage here is that the variables or the data that you're declaring are only accessible by the code that is written within the procedure. So whatever variables or local variables you have, that can be only modified by this particular procedure. That is the advantage of this. Okay, so that is a function defined within a monitor. They have used the term interchangeably. Don't get confused. Operations have been written, procedure has been written, function has been written. All are the same. A function defined within a monitor can access only those variables declared locally within the monitor, and of course its formal parameters. So you can say similarly, the local variables of a monitor can be accessed only by the local functions. And you can see this is a basic structure of how it will look like. You can see this is an encapsulated view of a monitor, which shows how it is encapsulated, and it contains some initialization code. It contains some operations, what I said as functions or procedures, the same thing. Okay, it's termed to as operations, and it has some shared data. And this is how the different processes are waiting for accessing the monitor so that synchronization can be achieved. Okay, that is the basic structure of a particular monitor. And that is why we said the local variables of a monitor can be accessed only by the local functions. So whatever you defined inside, so this is a basic syntax of a, one second. This is a basic syntax of a monitor. I'll explain this in detail. So before that, one thing we have to understand is that is only one process may be active within the monitor at a particular time. So that is the advantage. As I said, monitor is designed in such a way that mutual exclusion is provided within the monitor. So this is one of the condition. That is, local variables can be accessed only by the local functions. So nobody else can operate on it. So they have to come inside the monitor to access anything. And the second thing is only one process can be active within the monitor at a particular time. So it's better than the other synchronization schemes that we learned. Now, this is the syntax of a monitor function, how it looks like. So a monitor data type. So you have a particular data type known as monitor, and you can give any name for the monitor. For example, if you're implementing the dining philosophers, I can give the name dining philosophers. Okay, so that is one example. Now, inside that, you have some shared variable declarations and some procedures like procedure 1, procedure 2, etc., procedure n. We can define any number of procedures, and something for initialization also a function is there. So these are the basic idea of how a monitor looks like, and this is the diagrammatic view of the same thing. So you have initialization code at the end, then you have procedures in between, and in the beginning we have declared some shared variables. That is what is given over here. Okay, and this is the entry queue of all the processes waiting for accessing the monitor variables. Now, in order to do this, we need to have one more thing known as condition constructs or condition variables. So the monitor construct that we have defined is actually, you can say it's a good, better than the other schemes, but it is not sufficiently powerful for modeling some synchronization schemes. So what happens is we need to define some additional synchronization mechanism, and this is specifically known by the name the condition construct. Okay. Okay, so condition construct is what we're talking about. So the programmer who needs to write a tailor-made synchronization scheme has to define one or variables of this particular type of construct, and they are known as the condition variables, okay, or condition construct. So for example, we are using two conditional constructs here, X and Y. These are the special variables, okay, X and Y. Now, what are allowed on these special variables are only two operations. We all know for synchronization, we require two operations. One of them is wait, and the second one is signal. So we know what is the meaning of wait also. So if you want that this variable is to be used, then we can impose a wait as well as signal on X. Similarly, if this is a variable to be used, we can impose a wait as well as signal on the variable Y. So X dot wait, what does it do? A process that invokes the operation is suspended. We know that the wait operation is for suspending something, isn't it? Until it is signaled. So it has to wait for time being until something becomes available and it is being signaled by somebody. So then X dot signal is resuming one of the process that has been invoked by a wait operation. So if something is already waiting and if you want to become active, then you have to call the signal function. So that is done with the help of X dot signal. Now X dot signal is if no wait is there on the variable, then X dot signal has no effect on the variable. Okay, that is a basic idea. Now this is the, sorry. Okay, this is a change in the monitor diagram that I showed you earlier with the inclusion of condition variables. You can see here in this, there is the entry queue for all the processes that are waiting, and the remaining thing was initialization code, operations, and the shared data. And you can see that we have introduced two condition variables X and Y, and there will be queues associated with that, depending on how the processes come in and access these shared variables. So you can see X dot wait and X dot signal is there for suspending as well as resuming the process operation. So actually, now you can say, suppose that X dot signal operation was invoked by a process P that came in. Okay, suppose it was invoked by a process P, and there exists a suspended process, another process Q that is also associated with the condition variable X. So clearly, if the suspended variable Q is allowed to resume its execution, then we can say that the signaling process that initially came P, it must wait. Otherwise, what will happen? Both P and Q would have to be active simultaneously within the monitor. So one of them is suspended, then the other one can access. If the other one is suspended, then this one can access. So this way, both P and Q cannot act in parallel. So if Q is resumed, then P must wait. Okay, so the options that we have here are listed here. That is, you have signal and wait. If P waits, that is, P waits until Q either leaves the monitor or it waits for another condition. Okay, Q is waiting for some other thing to happen, or either it completes its task and leaves the monitor, then till that time P has to wait. Signal and continue means Q waits until P leaves the monitor or it waits for another condition, opposite thing. So that is the way how these monitors have been implemented. Okay. Now, I think we can look at an example in order to understand this much more better. They've already learned this example using semaphore, that is dining philosophers, where you have a round table with five philosophers seated and with a plate of food in front of them. And they have shared chopsticks, around five chopsticks only placed in the left and right of each of them, where it will be shared. So you can see they will be doing what we are introducing here is a data structure known as state. This is what we are introducing. So what can state contain is basically three things, because we know the philosopher is thinking most of the time. Whenever he is hungry, he go for eating, isn't it? So that is how the states change. So we have five philosophers. So we have introduced a monitor here. So first thing is we have introduced a monitor and named the monitor as dining philosophers. Then I've introduced an array that is state of five. State of five indicates the five philosophers in action. And what are the different states they can take? We have created it as an enumeration: thinking, hungry, and eating. Okay. Now, the next thing is we need to define condition variables. So we need condition variables for all of them. Okay, we need condition variables for all of them. So we have a condition variable known as self to estimate what they're doing now. And then you can see because there are five members, we have five condition variables. So in the earlier example, which I gave you, it was only two variables, X and Y, right? Now we have five condition variables. So we have defined the procedures also. Inside the monitor, we have declared the variables. Then we have defined a few procedures known as pick up, then another procedure known as put down. This is for picking up the chopstick and putting down the chopstick. And we have to test a condition whether they are allowed to pick up the chopstick or not. Okay, that is one thing. Then the last thing is the initialization code. Initially, all of them are thinking, right? So we have to set the code as state of I is equal to thinking. Now there is a condition that is given here. You can see that is the first condition is that we assume that philosopher I can be in the state, a philosopher I can be in the state eating only if, suppose this is the ith person. So he can only eat if this available chopstick to his left and the chopstick to his right, both are available. Understood? If the chopstick on his left and the chopstick on his right, if both of them are available at the same time, then only he can pick them up and start eating. So that is the condition we have imposed here. So only if both are available, he or she may pick up his or her chopsticks and then start eating. So how do you check whether the left side is free and the right side is free? We know that we use a modular function, right? So how do we use the modular function? We have to write it in this way. That is state of I plus 4, I plus 4. Okay, mod 5. We know there are 5 this thing, so we can take the maximum is divided by the size of the array, that is 5. So ith philosopher plus 4 means the one who comes next to him. So when you take a round like this, you have a table like this: first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So this is the person I, then we have to come over here to come to the right side, right? And we have to go here to come to the left side of the, to take the left chopstick, Okay. Okay, so the right hand side of the ith is the fifth person and the left hand side of the ith person is the second person. Either way, we can say you take any value of 5. So if I'm looking at the current value 1, then 1 plus 5 mode. So you can say in this case, maybe it starts from 0. That is why it is like this. So I'll put 0 here. Sorry. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now we can say that is 0 plus 4 mode 4. You go to the fourth person. And 0 and coming to the, that is on the right side. Now let us go to the left side. How do you write the state of the left side? That is state of square bracket. You have to take I. Just moving to the next person means what? I plus 1, right? Isn't it? As simple as that. So I plus 1 mod 5. So this way we can look at the fourth person, that is we are moving down first, second, third, fourth. So you have to look at the fourth person to go to the right chopstick, and you have to look at the next person immediately to go to the left chopstick. So you have to see whether what is the state of that philosopher. Depending on whether that philosopher's state, you can determine whether the chopstick is free or not. If he is in a thinking state, that means what? That chopstick is free. He's not eating right now, isn't it? He's not eating, then only that chopstick will be free and we can pick it up. Okay, so that is the basic idea. Okay, now we have to look at the algorithms. That is, what are the conditions given here? This is pick up and put down. So these are the two basic functions that will be working. So we have to write a main code for that or something, where we'll be picking up the first process by the dining philosopher, ith philosopher, is to pick up the chopstick. So we have to call the pickup function, and then he will be eating, and after that he'll be putting down the chopstick, the same person, ith philosopher. Okay, so the first pickup function will be invoked. Now let us see what is inside the pickup function. Okay, inside the pickup function, we pass the argument I to denote which philosopher we are talking about. Then state of I is equal to hungry. Pickup means what? He is hungry. That is why he is going to eat, right? So that is why he has to pick up the chopstick. So we have to change the state of I as hungry. Then we invoke a test function. What is this testing? Which I just told you now, checking whether the chopstick on his right and chopstick on his left is free. So let us go to the test function. This is the test function. This is the test function. So test int of I, what we have to do here. See this? If state of I plus 4 mod 5, that is the chopstick on the right, okay, is not equal to eating. That is the person, the philosopher. You can say not the chopstick. Basically, the philosopher is indirectly related to the chopstick, right? So the state of the person, of the philosopher who is on the right side of ith person, he is not eating. And the current thing is hungry. Of course, that is hungry. We have set it hungry over here. In the previous step itself, we put it as hungry, right? Ith person is currently hungry. So we are just checking it again. If the state of the right person is not eating state, and the state of the current person is hungry, and the state of I plus 1, that is on the left, he is also not eating. Got it? So three things we are checking: whether this philosopher is hungry, and is he ready? Is the chopstick available on the left and right is available? Then he has to pick it up. If all these three conditions are true, then he is in a eating state. Got it? We can set the state as eating, because earlier it was hungry. We are testing it now. After testing it, we found that he is able to pick it up. So we can set the state as eating. Now, once he is eating, what is the next thing he has to do? He has to change his self state. That was a condition variable. The condition variable self of I is signaled. That means what? If somebody else is waiting for the chopstick that he is currently going to put down now soon, he's eating now, he's going to put it down, right? So when he's going to put down, he has to signal himself so that somebody else can come and get this left or right chopstick who is sitting next to him, either the left or in the right. So self variable is such a condition variable which can be signaled. Okay. Now this signaling, what does it help? So that this variable is, there are 5 variables available. So this is one of the ith variable. So we'll come back after the test function. If he is able to eat, he will be he would have been eaten and he would have put down the chopstick also. He has to put down the chopstick also, right? Now suppose that state of I after this test function is not eating. When it is not eating, when this condition I told you, all of them had to be true, right? Then only the state of this particular person becomes eating. So it is set to eating. But when you come out of the test function, suppose this particular condition was not true and he was not able to signal also then. Okay. So you can say what happens here is the state of I is not eating, then he has to wait. What is the meaning of waiting? Self of I has to wait means what? He has to wait until somebody else who had occupied the chopstick had to put it down, has to put it down. Okay. So the person who has taken the chopstick next to him has to put it down, then he will issue a signal. When he issues a signal, this person who is waiting can stop waiting and get the chopstick. So that is what happens in the pickup. Now what happens in the put down? The next operation after pickup is put down, right? So let us come to that particular function. Now in put down, what happens? He is putting down means what? He has completed eating, and after eating, what the philosopher has to do? His main task is thinking. So what we first do it, we change the state of I to thinking. Now, once the state of I is thinking, we again test whether this particular, the nearest person, the next person to the right is given a text function. Similarly, the next person to the left, I plus 1, is also given a test function. We'll see what happens when we invoke this test function for the person on the right. When the person on the right, we take the next value, not that current person. The person on the right is the value of I now. Okay, we had a ith value, say 0th value. The person on the right was the 4th person. So 4 is given into this. So we check whether that person's, the new philosopher's person on the right, once again, is not eating, and this current person, the 4th person, is hungry, and the person on its 4th person's, the person on the left. So idaan ipo 4th person engi namakku adu varaikka onnude. So you can see here, this is the table. You have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now currently I'm talking of this particular person. Okay, so why? Because why are we doing this? Because when the philosopher 0 is putting down the chopstick, he has to help others to get the chopstick also, right? So he is issuing something to the next nearest persons. Who are the nearest persons to 0? It is 1 and 4. So currently we are putting a test function on 4. So when I'm putting a test function on 4, from 4, I check the person nearest to 4. Who is nearest to 4? 0 as well as 3. So if I'm putting this chopstick down, what this particular chopstick is free. So I'm just checking whether 4 plus 4 mode 5 is not eating, and the 4th person is hungry, and 4 plus 1 mode 5 person is not eating. So that means what? We are looking at 3 as well as 0 once again. Now, if these two are free, that means this particular person or philosopher can also start eating. So that is why we put a test function here. So when the ith person puts the chopstick down, the person on its right is given a signal that you can start eating. Similarly, the person on his left is given a signal that you can start eating. Now, this person on the left and right are individuals like what 4 as well as 1, right? But he also has a left and right, right? So that is why we have to check that condition again. Only if his left and right chopsticks are free, he can start eating. And only if the person wants left as well as right person's chopsticks are free, then we can say that he can start eating. So both are signaled, you can say. That is why the signal thing is there. Okay. So these are the two function calls. And this we already know what is the test. Now this is the initialization code. What is the initialization code? The state has been assigned, or you can say initialized as thinking for all the philosophers. For I is equal to 0 till the fifth philosopher, all the states from 0 to 4 has been set as thinking. That is known as the initial state of the monitor. So this is the initial state of the monitor, then the pickup function and the put down function, and in between the testing function. So this is an example how a monitor can be implemented using a dining philosophers. So I hope this is clear. Okay, thank you.